In the vast darkness of space, the planet Jara floated like a fragile jewel. Its skies shimmered with violet clouds and silver lightning, a beauty that had always reflected the peaceful lives of its people, the Jarians. They were a delicate race, their translucent skin glowing with every emotion, their long, slender bodies moving with grace and elegance. But today the glow of their skin was dull, flickering with fear, sadness, and desperation. Jara was under threat. From the black void, a fleet appeared, massive, merciless, and filled with deadly intent. The Markron Dominion, known across galaxies as destroyers of worlds, had come for Jara. Their ships were mountains of metal, each one bristling with weapons that could burn a city in minutes. They cast long shadows over the planet, blotting out the stars, and their presence made even the strongest Jarians tremble. In the capital city of Livran, High Counselor Virik stood at the top of the crystal spire, looking out over the city he had sworn to protect. His heart pounded in his chest. He had led the Jarians through centuries of peace and prosperity, but never had he faced anything like this. His people were brilliant, yes, but fragile. They could build wonders of technology and medicine, but they were not fighters. They could not survive against the relentless hunger of the Markron Dominion. Virik moved to the central chamber, where the council sat in anxious silence. Their eyes, usually calm and wise, now shimmered with panic. He activated the ancient interstellar beacon, a device used only in the most desperate times. The beacon had lain dormant for generations, its signal meant to call for help from any being, anywhere in the galaxy, capable of responding. Virik's voice shook as he addressed the council. "We have no choice. We cannot fight them alone. Our knowledge, our defenses are not enough. This is our final hope. We send a call to anyone who can hear it. We pray someone answers." With a trembling hand, he pressed the final command. A beam of blue energy shot into space, carrying the Jarians' plea across countless light years. For the first few hours, nothing happened. The cities below continued to tremble as the Markron fleet began their attack. Outlying colonies fell first. Fire and explosions lit the skies, painting a terrifying picture of what was to come. The Jarians watched helplessly, their bodies quivering with fear, their emotions flashing across their skin like waves in the ocean. Virik refused to leave the chamber, even as alarms blared and warnings of destruction filled the air. He clutched the controls of the beacon, willing it to reach someone, anyone. Days passed. The Jarians' hope began to fade. Their once brilliant cities were now scarred with fire and smoke. The Markron fleet's shadow grew longer, and every report from the outer colonies spoke of death and despair. Virik felt the weight of his people's lives pressing on him, heavier than any metal he had ever lifted. His voice, usually calm and commanding, cracked as he spoke to the council again. "We are running out of time," he said, his glowing skin dim. "We must trust. We must believe that someone, anyone, will hear us and come." And then, almost imperceptibly at first, the sensors picked up a new signal. It was unlike anything the Jarians had ever detected. The energy signature was huge, powerful, and raw. It moved through space faster than any technology the Jarians knew. Virik stared at the readings, his eyes widening in disbelief. The signal revealed more than just speed. It showed the presence of ships, but not the elegant, smooth designs of the Jarians. These ships were jagged, battle-worn, scarred from countless wars. They radiated strength, danger, and an unyielding purpose. Whispers of legend came to Virik's mind, stories from traders and travelers about a species called Deathworlders, humans. They were warriors who thrived in worlds that would kill lesser beings. They had survived planets that could destroy entire civilizations and returned stronger every time. Virik could hardly believe it. "Could it be them?" he whispered to himself, his voice barely audible. The council crowded around him, staring at the screens, hope flickering in their eyes for the first time in days. The Markron fleet had not noticed this new arrival yet. The Deathworlders were coming, not with caution, but with intent. Every sensor, every reading showed their unstoppable nature. They were not like anyone the Jarians had known. And yet somehow hope began to bloom where despair had ruled. Virik felt a strange warmth spread through him. For the first time, he allowed himself to imagine survival, to imagine his people safe, to imagine that the call for help had not been in vain. Somewhere in the galaxy, across light years of empty darkness, beings forged in the harshest worlds were on their way. The Deathworlders were coming, and Jara might yet see another sunrise. The calm of space shattered like glass as the first Deathworlder ships emerged from hyperspace. They did not glide or float like most galactic vessels. They thundered across the void, massive and jagged, covered in scars of countless battles. Each ship radiated raw power like a storm-given form, and the Markron scouts that spotted them first had no time to react before they were gone. High Counselor Virak and the Jarians watched in awe and fear from Livrin. The sheer presence of these beings made the city's crystal spires seem fragile, as if a single breath could shatter them. For the first time in days, Virak felt something other than despair, something fierce and unstoppable. Hope. The Deathworlders' ships moved with a terrifying grace. Unlike the smooth, controlled designs of the Markron fleet, these vessels were angular, brutal, and built for survival above all else. They had survived worlds that burned with acid rain, storms that could crush cities, and predators that would devour any intruder. They had adapted. They had evolved. They were humans, and now they were coming for Jara. On the bridge of one massive Deathworlder flagship, Commander Kale scanned the sensors. The ship groaned under the stress of its engines, each vibration a heartbeat of power. Kale had faced horrors the Jarians could not imagine, yet something about this system drew his attention. The readings showed a small, fragile race, beautiful, intelligent, and defenseless. A planet on the brink of extinction. He clenched his fists. They called for help, Kale said quietly, almost to himself. His voice carried over the bridge, steady and firm. And we answer. The crew of humans moved with precise efficiency, weapons powered up, shields aligned, and every system prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Kyle knew the Markron fleet would not pause. They never did. They would devour this planet if allowed. But the Deathworlders did not pause either. They thrived in the impossible. Back on Jara, the skies lit up. The Markron fleet turned toward the incoming ships, confusion rippling through their ranks. They had expected a weak race, perhaps a single signal. They had not expected this. The Deathworlders unleashed their weapons. Not blindly, but with careful, lethal precision. Beam after beam struck the Markron ships, tearing through armor and leaving trails of fire in the void. The Jarians gasped, their fear blending with awe. Translucent skins shimmered with emotions they could not name. Hope, courage, relief, and underneath it all a deep, trembling gratitude. Virak could hardly believe what he saw. Ships that were stories and myths were now fighting for his people. The Deathworlders did not hesitate. They did not negotiate. They acted with a raw, unstoppable force that the Markron fleet could not match. Explosions rocked the void, throwing debris across the system. The Markron ships attempted to regroup, to strike back, but the Deathworlders were already inside their formation, dismantling their plans with brutal efficiency. Each strike was precise, each maneuver calculated, yet fueled by a ferocity that few could survive. Virak's heart raced. His council whispered among themselves, words of disbelief and hope passing like currents in the air. They are saving us, one murmured. We are alive because of them, said another, tears in their eyes. In the midst of the battle, Kyle's voice came over the ship's internal calm. Focus on the largest vessels first. The rest will crumble if we break their spine. His tone carried a weight of experience, a calm authority that steadied the crew even as the void erupted around them. The Markron Dominion had never faced beings like this. The Deathworlders were not afraid of death. They had been forged by it. Every world they had conquered, every battle they had survived had made them stronger, faster, deadlier. And now, they fought for a race that had never even known war, a race that had only asked for help. On the surface, the Jarians began to rebuild defenses, encouraged by the courage of the Deathworlders above them. Citizens helped the wounded, extinguished fires, and whispered prayers of thanks to the mysterious warriors who had crossed galaxies to save them. Children pressed their faces to windows, wide-eyed, staring at the war in the skies. They had never seen power like this, never imagined that someone could rise in their hour of need and sweep away the shadows. Hours passed, and the battle began to turn. The Markron fleet, once confident and menacing, now faltered. Ships that had once seemed invincible now drifted as wreckage through space, their energy signatures dimming. The Deathworlders pressed their advantage without mercy, ensuring that Jara's skies would soon be free from the threat. Virak felt his body tremble. For the first time in days, he allowed himself to hope fully. His people were not alone. They were not abandoned. Something powerful, something extraordinary had me for them, and it would not leave until they were safe. And high above, the Deathworlders continued their assault, a storm of human determination and strength, carrying with them the unspoken message of the galaxy. No matter how fragile or small a life may seem, the universe has champions, and sometimes they come when least expected. The Markron Dominion had never known fear. Their empire had conquered countless worlds, crushing every resistance beneath iron boots and burning stars. But now, facing the Deathworlders above Jara, their confidence faltered. The humans moved with a precision and fury that no one could anticipate. They were not just warriors, they were living storms, unstoppable and relentless. High above the planet, the battle raged. The Jarians watched in awe from their cities, their emotions painting the sky with vibrant colors. Virik stood atop the tallest spire, his hands gripping the crystalline railing, his heart beat wildly, every pulse echoing the explosions in the sky. The humans fought with a courage that seemed almost impossible to comprehend. They did not hesitate. They did not fear death, and they did not retreat. On the surface, Jarians scurried to help one another. Fires were put out. The wounded were carried to safety, and hope flowed through the streets like water breaking through a dam. The citizens whispered to each other, unable to believe what they saw. "They are saving us. They are really saving us," one said, tears running down his translucent skin. Another simply knelt and bowed to the sky, as if the humans above could hear their gratitude. Inside the flagship, Commander Kale scanned the battlefield. His crew worked like extensions of his own mind, each movement perfect and deadly. Kale's eyes were sharp, calculating every strike, every maneuver. But beneath his calm there was something else, a rare respect for these small, fragile beings who had sent the call. He understood something the Jarians could not yet see. The Deathworlders did not fight for glory or conquest. They fought for those who could not defend themselves. They fought because it was right. "Target the Markron command ship," Kale ordered. "If we take out their leader, the rest will scatter." A series of beams shot through space, striking the Markron flagship with unrelenting force. The massive vessel shuddered, shields flickering and sparks flying from damaged systems. Alarmed Markron commanders barked orders, but it was too late. The Deathworlders moved like shadows in the void, striking where it hurt most, dismantling strategy with surgical precision. On Jara, the skies were alive with light and sound. The Jarians had never imagined war, yet now they felt it deep within their bones. Fear mingled with awe, and sadness softened into relief. Every explosion above was a promise, the promise that someone, somewhere in the galaxy, cared enough to risk everything for them. Virik's thoughts drifted to the children of the planet, small and fragile, yet full of wonder. He imagined them growing up, knowing the universe was vast, terrifying, but also full of guardians who would answer the call when they were in need. For centuries, Jara had been a quiet, peaceful world. Now, they would carry a memory of survival and gratitude that would last for generations. The Markron fleet, realizing their defeat was near, began desperate maneuvers. Their ships moved chaotically, firing wildly, trying to break through the Deathworlders' lines. But the humans anticipated every strike. They anticipated fear. They anticipated desperation. Each Markron attack was met with countermeasures so precise, it seemed almost as if the humans could read minds. Amid the chaos, Kale's voice rang over the comm. "Hold your ground. Protect the planet at all costs. Remember, no one leaves Jara to die." Even the crew felt it. This was no ordinary mission. This was a rescue. This was humanity at its rawest, its fiercest, and its noblest. They were not fighting for fame, not for wealth, not for territory. They fought because life in any form was worth defending. Below, Virik noticed a strange thing. The Jarians' own defenses, previously weak and fearful, began to work better. Inspired by the humans' courage, engineers and soldiers found new strength. Weapons that had been useless before now struck with accuracy. Shields that had flickered under pressure now held firm. It was as if the Deathworlders had awakened a spark inside them, a spark of bravery and determination that had been dormant for too long. Hours turned into a day, and the tide of battle shifted. Markron ships, once terrifying and overwhelming, now fell one by one. Explosions illuminated the black void like fireworks, but for the Jarians these were not celebrations. They were survival. They were hope made visible. Finally, the largest Markron ship, the command vessel, erupted in a massive explosion, sending shards of metal across the void. The remaining ships faltered, their morale shattered. They began retreating, fleeing from the planet they had intended to consume. Viric's knees nearly buckled as relief washed over him. His people were alive. They were safe. And the humans, the Deathworlders, remained above, scanning the system, ensuring no other threat lingered. Kyle, observing the retreat, allowed himself a rare moment of pride. His crew had survived countless battles, yet this one felt different. They had answered a call, protected the weak, and changed the fate of an entire world. And somewhere, far below, the Jarians were beginning to understand something essential about the universe. Strength was not just about survival, it was about protecting those who could not protect themselves. Viric looked up at the sky one last time as the Deathworlders began moving away. His voice trembled, soft but strong. "Thank you. Thank you for saving us." Somewhere across the void the humans heard the gratitude, and though they said nothing, their presence spoke volumes. The galaxy was wide. Dangers were many, but for those who needed help, champions would rise even from the harshest worlds. The sky above Jara finally calmed, though streaks of fire and debris still drifted lazily across the violet horizon. The Markron fleet had retreated, leaving the planet battered but alive. For the first time in days, the Jarians could breathe freely. They emerged from hiding, their translucent skin flickering with relief, awe, and lingering fear. High Counselor Virac moved among them, offering words of comfort, helping the wounded, and witnessing the small acts of courage that had blossomed during the battle. Yet his eyes kept drifting upward, scanning for the massive, jagged ships of the Deathworlders. They had come, they had saved the planet, but they had not stayed, and Viric knew deep in his heart that the humans were not leaving out of selfishness. They were ensuring Jara could stand on its own before disappearing into the stars. A sudden hum vibrated through the city. The Jarians stiffened, unsure if another attack had begun. Then, with a low roar, a Deathworlder shuttle descended through the violet clouds, landing in the central plaza. The Jarians gasped at the sheer size of it. Its metal was scratched and scarred, but it gleamed with a strange beauty, a testament to endurance and survival. The ramp lowered, and out stepped humans. Their armor was worn, their faces streaked with soot and sweat, but they moved with quiet strength. Commander Kale led them, his expression serious but calm. He scanned the crowd, and his eyes softened when he met Virac's. "You're safe," Kyle said, his voice steady but warm. "The rest of them have fled. For now, Jara is yours to protect." Virac felt words fail him. He bowed deeply, not just in respect but in gratitude that went beyond language. "We owe you everything," he said. "You saved our people, our homes, our lives." Kyle shook his head. "We didn't do it for thanks. We did it because it was right. Because someone had to stand against them. And because no one deserves to be wiped from the stars without a chance to fight back." The Jarians exchanged looks, realizing the depth of what had occurred. These humans were not just soldiers. They were warriors who thrived on worlds that could kill anything weaker than themselves. And yet they had come to a fragile, gentle race that had never known war, simply because they were needed. A young Jarian, no older than 10 cycles, stepped forward timidly. His translucent skin glowed with awe and curiosity. "Will you stay?" he asked, voice trembling. Kyle knelt, meeting the child's gaze. "We can't stay forever," he said softly. "But while we are here, we will teach you how to defend yourselves. And you will survive. Not because we fought for you, but because you learned to fight for each other." That night, the central plaza was filled with whispered stories. Jarians spoke of bravery, humans spoke of survival, and slowly understanding blossomed between them. Language barriers melted away under shared purpose. Viric watched as his people tentatively approached the humans, offering food, water, and gratitude. Some simply touched their hands to the humans' arms, feeling the warmth of life so different from their own. Kyle observed quietly. This was why they fought. This was why they traveled across galaxies to answer a desperate plea. Not for conquest, not for glory, but for connection. Even in a universe filled with darkness, there were bonds worth protecting. Bonds that could outshine the void itself. The next day, Kyle gathered a small group of Jarian engineers. Together they began repairing the city's defenses, teaching methods of resilience and survival. They showed how to reinforce structures, how to redirect energy to shields, and how to prepare for future attacks. The Jarians learned quickly, their fear transforming into determination. Ion Virik stood nearby, watching a young female Jarian test a shield generator for the first time. Sparks flew, but she laughed, a sound that seemed to brighten the sky itself. "Look at them," Virik whispered to himself. "They are not helpless. They are strong, and we are not alone." Kale approached him, placing a firm hand on Virak's shoulder. "Your people have courage," he said. "It's just buried under fear. Sometimes all it takes is a push, a moment to awaken it. You have that now." Virik nodded, feeling hope swell within him like never before. He realized that the Deathworlders had not just saved lives, they had given his people a gift even greater, the belief that they could survive, that they could fight, and that they were part of a larger galaxy where allies existed, even in the darkest times. As night fell, the stars above Jara burned brighter than they had in years. The Markron threat had been pushed back, but the universe was vast and danger would come again. Yet for the first time, the Jarians did not tremble at the void. They stood with courage in their hearts, guided by the memory of humans who had crossed countless light years to stand beside them. Commander Kyle and his team prepared to return to their ships, but not before leaving a lasting message. "Remember this," he said to the gathered crowd. "Survival is not given. It is earned. And sometimes it takes help from those who refuse to walk away when others are in need." Virik bowed deeply once more, his voice strong despite his emotions. "We will remember, always. You have changed our lives forever." The humans nodded silently, and with a roar of engines and a flash of lights, they departed into the void, leaving behind hope, knowledge, and a bond that would never fade. And somewhere deep in the hearts of every Jarian, a spark had been lit, a spark of courage, resilience, and the enduring truth that even in the darkest galaxy, heroes could arrive when least expected. For days, the people of Jara celebrated their survival. Fires were extinguished, shattered buildings were rebuilt, and a fragile peace returned to the cities. Yet the memory of the Markron Dominion's shadow lingered. High Counselor Virik could not forget the images of burning colonies, the cries of the wounded, and the terror that had gripped his people. He knew that the enemy had retreated, not disappeared. Above the planet, Commander Kale monitored the void. The Deathworlders' ships moved in silent patterns, scanning for hidden threats. Though the Markron fleet had fled, Kale's instincts told him they would return, and soon. The Dominion did not tolerate defeat. They learned, adapted, and struck harder. Kale's eyes narrowed as he studied the nearby systems. Reports indicated that other planets had been taken without mercy. Jara could not afford to be unprepared. On the ground, the Jarians began to sense the unease. Their translucent skin reflected worry and lingering fear. Virik gathered the council in the central chamber, a structure that glowed softly with the light of the planet's crystal energy. "The Markron fleet will not stop," he said, his voice steady but heavy. "We must be ready. We have survived once thanks to the humans, but survival now requires action, planning, preparation, and courage." The council murmured among themselves. Many were still in awe of the humans, and some wondered if they could ever truly defend themselves without them. Virik's gaze swept across their faces. "We have to. We cannot rely on others forever. We must find our strength, and we have allies who will guide us." Later that day, a human shuttle landed once more. Kale stepped out, his eyes scanning the crowd. He carried no weapons this time, only plans, tools, and determination. "The Dominion will return," he said plainly. "When they do, we cannot simply wait. We must fight smart. Your cities, your people, your lives depend on it. You have courage. Now I will teach you strategy." The Jarians followed Kale and his team to the central plaza. For the first time, humans and Jarians stood together not just as rescuer and rescued, but as allies. Kale showed them how to fortify their defenses, how to build traps that could stop larger forces, and how to move quickly in emergencies. The Jarians learned fast. They adapted, their ingenuity combining with the humans' experience to form strategies that no one else in the galaxy would expect. Virik watched a group of young Jarians practicing rapid response drills. He saw fear transform into determination, hesitation into confidence. The children who had once cried at the sight of the sky now moved with purpose, understanding that survival required action, not despair. Yet the shadow of the Markron Dominion was never far away. Scouts from the enemy had begun to appear at the edges of the system, probing for weaknesses. Their ships moved like vultures searching for prey. Kyle's sensors detected them before they could strike, giving the Jarians precious time to prepare. The first encounter was small but terrifying. A squadron of Markron fighters slipped past the outer patrols and aimed for a Jarian power hub. The humans and the Jarians responded together. Humans directed energy beams with precision, while Jarians used their knowledge of the terrain to channel attacks and traps. Explosions lit the skies, and the invaders were destroyed before they could cause major damage. Virek's heart swelled with pride. His people were learning. They were fighting, not just for survival but for their world, their future. And they were doing it alongside beings who had once seemed like legends, now standing as mentors, guides, and friends. Yet the cost of war was always heavy. Even in small skirmishes, lives were lost. Virek walked among the wounded, his skin flickering with grief. Kale stood beside him, silent for a moment. "Loss is inevitable," Kyle said softly. "But courage and survival matter more. Every life you save strengthens the future. Every lesson learned makes you harder to defeat." Virek nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. "We have seen what happens when fear rules," he said. "Now we know what happens when courage rules. And with you by our side, maybe we can endure anything." That evening, as the twin moons of Jara rose, the city glowed with quiet determination. Humans and Jarians patrolled side by side, repairing defenses, sharing stories, and training for the battles to come. The Dominion's shadow lingered at the edges of the system, but for the first time Jara did not cower. They had allies, they had knowledge, and above all they had courage. Kale looked down at the planet from his ship. He saw resilience growing like fire in fragile hearts, a determination that could defy the galaxy's harshest forces. "They will not fall," he said quietly. "Not while they remember what courage looks like, and not while we are here." Virek, standing in the plaza below, felt a deep sense of connection. The humans had shown him the power of determination, the importance of action, and the strength that could rise from unity. Jara would survive. Jara would fight. And when the Dominion returned, they would be ready. The night sky held stars and hope alike. Shadows of the Dominion might circle, but the light of courage burned brighter. And in the hearts of all who stood together that day, a promise had been made. The galaxy would see that even the smallest world, when protected by courage and allies, could endure. The calm that had settled over Jara was shattered in an instant. From the black void of space, the Markron Dominion returned, not in small scouts this time, but with a full fleet. Massive warships, bristling with weapons and glowing with deadly energy, cast long shadows over the planet. Cities trembled under their presence, and fear rippled through the Jarians' ranks like a storm sweeping across the land. High Counselor Virek stood atop the central spire, his heart pounding. He had hoped that preparation and the humans' guidance would give them an advantage, yet the scale of the Dominion's arrival made his courage waver. His skin flickered with fear, but beneath it determination began to grow. He knew that Jara could not survive by hiding. They had to fight. Above the planet, Commander Kale's ships formed a jagged line, their hulls scarred from previous battles but shining with resilience. "This is it," Kale said to his crew. "We protect Jara. No compromise, no retreat. Their fleet is larger, but we've fought worse and survived. Remember what we're fighting for: life, courage, hope." The Jarians, watching from the ground, felt both awe and terror. The humans moved among them, distributing shields, weapons, and instructions. Each action was precise, each command calm yet urgent. Fear still existed, but now it was tempered by hope. The hope that these warriors from harsh worlds had not failed before, and would not fail now. The first wave of Markron ships descended, firing with lethal accuracy. Cities shook, towers crumbled, and energy fields flared under the bombardment. But the humans were ready. Deathworlder ships intercepted the attackers with devastating force. Beams of energy carved paths through enemy hulls, explosions erupting like fireworks in the void. The humans fought with brutal efficiency, yet they made sure to protect as many Jarians as possible. Virek's eyes filled with tears as he watched his people move with newfound courage. Children carried the wounded to safety. Engineers reinforced structures, and citizens assisted one another. The humans' bravery had awakened something inside the Jarians, the knowledge that even fragile beings could survive if they stood together and believed in themselves. Kale's voice cut through the calm. calm and commanding. Focus on the command ships first. If their leaders fall, their fleet will scatter. Protect the planet, protect the people, and trust in each other. As the battle intensified, a massive Markron dreadnought broke through the outer defenses, targeting the central city. Its weapons fired relentlessly, and for a moment it seemed unstoppable. Virek's stomach twisted with fear, his hands trembling, but Kale acted without hesitation. Human ships swooped around the dreadnought, drawing its fire, while smaller craft struck from every angle. Explosions tore through space. Metal groaned and sparks rained like fireflies. The humans' strategy was flawless, yet it required sacrifice. Some ships were lost, torn apart in moments, and Kale's crew grieved silently. Their faces hard but determined. They knew the cost of failure, but they also knew the cost of not fighting was far greater. On the ground, Jarians witnessed heroism in its purest form. Humans risked everything to shield them, to clear paths and to neutralize threats before they could strike. Fear and gratitude intertwined, their glowing skin reflecting emotions too complex for words. Virek realized that courage was not absence of fear. It was action despite fear. Hours passed. The Dominion's fleet, powerful and merciless, began to falter. The humans' relentless attacks, combined with the Jarians' ingenuity, turned the tide. Energy beams struck command ships, crippling them, while reinforced defenses on the ground held firm. For every ship lost, the Dominion seemed to retreat further, their confidence eroding under the unyielding force of the Deathworlders and their allies. Finally, the largest dreadnought exploded in a blaze that illuminated the skies, a signal to the remaining ships that the battle was lost. The Dominion began a chaotic retreat, scattering across space, their shadow receding once more. Virek fell to his knees, overwhelmed by relief, grief, and awe. His people were alive. His planet was safe. And the humans, the Deathworlders, stood victorious, though not without cost. Kale landed among the Jarians once more, his face marked by soot and exhaustion. Virek rushed forward, his words trembling but heartfelt. "You've done the impossible. You saved us again. I cannot thank you enough." Kyle shook his head, exhaustion softening his stern expression. "We didn't do it for thanks," he said. "We did it because it was right. Because no one deserves to die when they can be saved. And because courage is contagious. Your people fought too, in their way. You've learned what it means to survive, and that matters as much as any ship or weapon." Virek looked around at his people. They were battered, scared, and wounded, but alive. They had faced the shadow of the galaxy's most merciless empire and survived. And they had done it with allies who had walked across light years to ensure their survival. The twin moons of Jara rose, casting silver light over the city. Virek felt a quiet strength settle within him. The Markron Dominion could return or other dangers could emerge, but the people of Jara now understood something essential. They were not alone. They had courage, allies, and hope. And sometimes that was enough to turn the tide of even the darkest battle. Kale watched the Jarians with a rare smile. "The galaxy is harsh," he said softly, "but there will always be those who rise to meet it. Remember this. Remember today. You are not helpless, and you never will be." Virek nodded, his skin glowing with a mixture of relief, pride, and gratitude. In the silence that followed, the planet itself seemed to breathe again. Jara had survived stronger and braver than ever. And high above, the humans prepared to leave, knowing that the seeds of courage they had planted would grow far beyond the battle. The first light of Jara's sun spilled over the shattered, repaired cities, casting golden reflections on crystal towers that had once trembled under the shadow of destruction. The planet was quiet now, but not empty. The air carried a mixture of relief, hope, and the faint hum of rebuilding. The Jarians, once fragile and fearful, now moved with purpose and courage in their glowing, translucent forms. High Counselor Virek stood atop the tallest spire, his eyes scanning the horizon. Memories of the Markron Dominion's relentless assault lingered like shadows in his mind. The fear, the fire, the cries of the wounded. But alongside those memories burned the image of humans, the Deathworlders crossing the void to fight for his people. He felt a deep gratitude that went beyond words. Kale and his crew were still present in the central plaza, the Deathworlders who had become the planet's silent guardians. Their ships stood in orbit, massive and imposing, yet their pilots walked among the Jarians with calm authority. They were no longer invaders or strangers. They were teachers, protectors, and friends. "You have changed," Kyle said softly to Virak, his eyes scanning the city. Your people fought when they thought they couldn't. You learned what courage truly is. You learned what it means to survive? Virak nodded, his skin glowing faintly with emotion. And you came across the galaxy to save us. I do not know how to repay such courage. Kale shook his head. No repayment is needed. Courage begets courage. That is enough. Around them, Zarians were busy at work. Engineers reinforced buildings, citizens tended to the wounded, and even children helped carry supplies. The humans had taught them more than just tactics. They had shown them that even the smallest race could survive and adapt, even in the harshest corners of the galaxy. For the first time, Virak realized that survival was not only about defense, it was about belief, unity, and strength of will. A young Zarian approached Kale, her glowing skin shimmering with a mix of curiosity and admiration. Will you leave now? She asked softly, her voice trembling. Kale knelt down, his armor scratched and worn, but his presence reassuring. We cannot stay forever, he said. But we leave behind what matters most, knowledge, courage, and hope. You have the strength now. You can protect your world. And if ever the galaxy threatens you again, you will know that heroes exist, and sometimes they arrive when you need them most. Virak stepped forward, placing his hand lightly on Kale's shoulder. Your people, the Deathworlders, have shown us what it means to rise against impossible odds. You are more than warriors. You are a reminder of what life can endure. Kale's expression softened just for a moment. The galaxy is harsh, he said, but it is not empty. There is always someone willing to stand, someone willing to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Remember this, Virak, and teach your people the same. As the humans began boarding their ships to leave, a gentle hush fell over the plaza. Zarians of all ages, wounded and whole alike, gathered to watch. Translucent forms glimmered in the sunlight, a testament to life that had been nearly extinguished, now burning brighter than ever. Virak felt tears prick his eyes. His people had survived because of courage, unity, and the unexpected arrival of beings who had walked across stars to answer a call for help. Kyle paused, looking back one final time. His voice carried over the calm, quiet but firm. The galaxy is vast. You are small, but size does not matter. Strength comes from courage, and courage comes from standing when it is hardest. Never forget that. And with that, the engines roared and the Deathworlders' ships ascended into the void, leaving trails of light behind them. Virak watched until the last vessel vanished beyond the horizon, leaving Zara in silence, peaceful, resilient, and alive. In the days that followed, the Zarians continued their work. Cities rose from ruins, defenses were strengthened, and the lessons of the humans were passed on from elders to youth. Every street, every tower, every glowing citizen carried the memory of the day when the galaxy's fiercest warriors had chosen to stand with them. Virak often visited the plaza where Kale had stood, remembering the humans' words and presence. He knew that danger would come again. The Markron Dominion had not been destroyed, only pushed back. Yet he felt no fear. Zara had survived once, and now, with courage awakened in every heart, it could survive again. Children played under the twin moons, their laughter echoing through streets that had once known only fear. Engineers tested new shields, scientists studied ways to fortify the planet, and soldiers trained tirelessly. The Zarians had discovered a truth that the Deathworlders had shown them. Survival was not simply living, but standing together, learning, and fighting when it mattered most. And somewhere, far across the stars, humans continued their journey through the galaxy, knowing that the small planet they had saved would carry their lessons forward. They were legends, yes, but more than that, they were a reminder of the enduring power of life, courage, and the unexpected heroism that could rise from the harshest worlds. Virak looked out at the horizon one final time as the sun climbed higher. The planet was quiet now, but it was alive. The sky held no shadows, only light. The people of Zara had survived, and they had grown stronger. The memory of the Deathworlders would never fade, but neither would the courage they had awakened within themselves. And in that quiet, glowing moment, a simple truth shone brighter than the stars. No matter how dark the galaxy, no matter how cruel the universe, life that refuses to surrender, and those who answer the call to protect it, could endure, thrive, and shine forever. Zara had survived. Humanity had arrived, and a new dawn forged in fire and courage stretched across the violet skies.